Good morning, welcome to English class. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. We're going to get started with Christopher Columbus talking about the instruments for navigation. So you are going to need this page ready to go, instruments for navigation. I want you to stop, put your name at the top of the paper. So put your name at the top of your paper. When we're all done today, you can go back and color these pictures on your paper. I did not because I didn't have time yet, but I'm going to color my pictures so that it looks nice and pretty in my finished book. You are also going to need this page, so your mystery flaps. This is the one that says navigation, okay? There's another mystery flaps that you have in your packet, but this is the navigation one with the telescope and the compass, the anchor, those things. So you need those mystery flaps, not the other one. It should be tucked in right behind this page. You'll also need a pair of scissors and glue, some tijeras and pegamento. Pause your video now and get those things if you don't have them yet. All right, we're gonna get started first by reading the instruments for navigation. So these would be the tools, the herramientas that someone would use in order to go somewhere in their barco. So Christopher Columbus, when he was sailing to reach the Americas, these were things that he would use. These were herramientas that would have been important for Christopher Columbus. So let's learn about them. We're going to read through the page just like we have been doing. I'll read through it first slowly in English, then we'll read it in Spanish. Try to see how much you can understand before you hear the Spanish. A magnetic compass was used to help sailors navigate on the open seas. A compass has a magnetic needle that always points towards true north. The Chinese invented the first compass about 2,000 years ago. So that compass, the tool that is a compass, would be, would be this tool right here, right next to that paragraph. So it helps you to know which direction you're going. Let me read it in Spanish. Se utilizó una brújula magnética para ayudar a los marineros a navegar en los mares abiertos. Una brújula tiene una aguja magnética que siempre apunta hacia el norte verdadero. Los chinos inventaron la primera brújula hace 2,000 años. Okay, let's read now about the next piece of equipment, the telescope. At the very top of the ship sat a crew member. He was looking through a telescope to see a far distance. What was he looking for? He kept an eye out for dangers ahead, including other ships, glaciers, which are like huge pieces of ice in the water, huge whales, and rough seas. Of course, he was always watching for land, too. Land ho! That's what they would cry out when they found land. They would call out, land ho! So they knew that land was coming up. And this tool is the telescope right there. Let's read about it in Spanish. En la parte superior del barco estaba un miembro de la tripulación. Estaba mirando a través de un telescopio para ver a lo lejos. ¿Qué estaba buscando? Mantuvo un ojo para los peligros que había por delante, incluyendo otros barcos. I'm going to try to say this word, but I'm not really sure that I'm saying it correctly, so perdóname. Glaciares, enormes ballenas y mares ásperos. Por supuesto que siempre estaba mirando por tierra también. Oh, tierra! Okay, I'm not sure if that's exactly what they would have said in Spanish, but that's what they would have said in English. Okay, let's read about the next tool. Prior, that means antes, to the early explorers, ancient ships would often throw large stones that were tied with ropes over the side of the boats to keep them steady. These were the first anchors. Over the years, the anchor greatly improved. Today, anchors are usually a large metal object with hooks on each side that dig into the bottom. These hooks are used to keep the boat in place. So here you have the anchor. You're probably very familiar with that. So that's used to keep the boat from moving because the water naturally starts to carry things one direction or another because the water is always moving. So if they wanted to stop the boat in a certain place, they had to let down the anchor. Let's read about it in Spanish. Antes de los primeros exploradores, los barcos antiguos a mundo lanzaban grandes piedras que estaban atadas con cuerdas sobre el lado de los barcos, para mantenerlos estables. Estos fueron los primeros anclas. Con los años, el ancla mejoró mucho. Hoy en día, los anclas son generalmente un objeto de metal grande con ganchos en cada lado, que se caben en el fondo. Los ganchos se utilizan para mantener el barco en su lugar. Let's read now about what they would eat, their food, their comida. Everyone had to eat small rations, that would be small amounts of food, because they never knew exactly how long it was going to take to reach land. They ate rice, beet bread, salted meats, and beans. They also fished off the side of the boat. Now you're probably thinking, oh, that doesn't sound so bad, but think about if that's all that you had to eat and you never had any choice in what you had to eat. It was just rice, bread, salted meat, and beans, and maybe some fish. That's about it. Your meat is not very fresh. It's usually pretty dry. Like it said, salty, con sal. So, that would make you thirsty. Yeah, it wasn't always very good food. So a lot of sailors would get sick because they couldn't eat properly. So that would be really sad, right? Let's read about it in Spanish. Todos tenían que comer raciones pequeñas porque nunca sabían exactamente cuánto tiempo iba a tardar en llegar a la tierra. Comían arroz, pan, carnes saladas y frijoles. También pescado en el lado del barco. And I'm sure whenever they were able to get fresh fish, that was really exciting for them because it was fresh meat, it wouldn't have been salty, so that would have been nice for them to have a good treat. Okay, let's talk about maps. What do we use maps for? Mapa. To know where we are, right? Well, can you imagine going to a place where no one has ever been there, so there is no map? There's no GPS, no nada. That would be a little scary, right? Well, that's exactly what Christopher Columbus was doing. He was going to a place that people hadn't really been to. So there was no map. There was no way to know if he was going in the right direction, where land even was. So he was going to a place that was totally new so that he could find out what it was like for other people as well. Let's read about using maps. Although maps were not completely accurate during the time of the early explorers, because they didn't know exactly what things looked like, they were just guessing, they definitely helped them find their way. During the age of exploration, map makers used a grid of crisscross lines as a guide. These lines helped a navigator find the distance from port to port. Using both a compass and a map helped them sail in the correct direction across the wide ocean. So the compass helped them know which direction they were going in because it helped them know which way was north, south, which way was east and west. So they were able to use that in that direction. But the maps gave them a little bit more of an idea with a grid. So that would be lines that crossed each other, and they had an idea of where they were that way. Let's read about it in Spanish. Aunque los mapas no eran completamente precisos durante la época de los primeros exploradores, definitivamente les ayudaron a encontrar su camino. Durante la era de la exploración, mapmakers utilizó una rejilla de líneas entrecruzada como guía. Las líneas ayudaron a un navegante a encontrar la distancia de puerto a puerto. Usando una brújula y un mapa, les ayudó a navegar en la dirección correcta a través del océano ancho. Okay, and the last tool we're going to read about would be the boat itself. Whose favorite part would be the boat? That's one of my favorite parts to learn about. Let's talk about the boat. I know, some of you are thinking my favorite part would be the food, right? Yeah, I know. A caravel is a small, highly sturdy sailing ship developed by the Portuguese for exploration. These ships were easy to navigate and could carry up to 150 tons of cargo. Its speed and agility made these boats the best sailing vessel of its time. There were no motors or engines to drive the ship, so sailors were totally dependent upon the wind, currents, and the captain's navigation skills. So, could you imagine being on a ship that only moved by the wind and the water moving it? That would be interesting, right? What if you got stuck because there was no wind and the water was really still that day? Did you know that that happened? That would happen to people sometimes. Oof, those could be rough times if people got stuck, because they could be stuck for days before their ship drifted to where the water was moving more and there was more wind. It would be difficult in those times, but that was a risk that sailors took in order to explore. And we're thankful that they had that desire for exploration. That's a desire that God placed in their heart because He wanted us to go out and discover all of the lands that He created for us in this world. Let's read about the caravels in Spanish. Una carabela es un pequeño y muy robusto barco de vela desarrollado por los portugueses para la exploración. Estos barcos eran fáciles de navegar y podían transportar hasta 150, sorry, I blanked on my number, 150 toneladas de carga. Su velocidad y agilidad hicieron de estos barcos el mejor barco de su tiempo. No había motores ni motores para conducir el barco, así que los marineros dependían totalmente del viento, las corrientes y las habilidades de navegación del capitán. So you would hope that you had a capitán that was very good, right? That you could depend on and who knew exactly what he was doing.